Hi, and welcome to this video on the KInspector tool from Kentico, where we are going to not only look at what the tool is, but also explore how we can contribute to the project. My name is Michael Kincaid. My Twitter handle is @meandmyrobot. I am a Kentico MVP and also the CTO of Eccentric Arts. We are a full-service digital agency up here in Toronto, Canada. So just what is KInspector? And importantly, what does it inspect? Well, KInspector is a tool that was originally developed by Kentico and was used by them to audit the performance, health, and security of Kentico builds. This they would do for implementation partners or for clients themselves who had issues or concerns about their website. These concerns would often come about in the following way. A new Kentico site would start off in development, and all was assumed to be well with the build. The same would be thought of with QA and stage as well. The site would then ship, and at some point post-launch, complaints would start popping up. Now, the implementation team would have a look at it, scratch their heads, and if they couldn't sort out the problem, the next move would be to engage Kentico professional services to find out just what was going on. This is when Kentico would bring out the KInspector, or Kentico Analyzer Canal, as it was known back in the good old days. Before looking into custom code from the implementation partner, Kentico needed a way to audit the site to see if general Kentico best practices were being followed. So the per site that was sicky bad no well would go in, and by resolving the issues uncovered by the tool, a trouble-free site would come out. So how do we get the tool? Well, not only have Kentico released it to the public, but they have also open sourced the entire project. And where do we go to get open source projects? GitHub. So let's go there now and get the tool. Here we have the KInspector project in GitHub. You can find it at this address here. There's several options to get the tool. We can clone it and start working on the project, or we can also download the actual code files. And finally, if we want to get an official release, if we click on releases, we can see the release history here. Click on the link to the latest zip file to download a release. Then extract the zip file that you just downloaded. So inside the release folder for KInspector, you'll see we have a bin folder and a start command file. If we double click on the command file, the actual KInspector tool will start up. Let me just close this down. Okay, so in the startup screen, you'll see that we have some initial setup to do in order to connect the tool with a site locally running that we want to actually test. So you'll see I've set this up to run against a local copy of Kentico 9. And that's just running the Dancing Goat demo site. Let's now connect the KInspector tool to my Kentico site. When we're connected, you'll notice that there's three sections. There's instance setup, analysis, and analysis security. The instance setup section is there to help you prepare to set up your instance for actually running the KInspector tool, because you might have some settings that are still configured for production, and we want to update these and change them so that we can actually run it against localhost. Next, we have analysis. This area of the KInspector tool has a lot of different test modules that you can run against the site in all different types of areas, which you can see here in brackets, like content, general, consistency errors as well. Finally, in analysis and security, these are modules that can scan for potential security issues like XSS or SQL injection on the actual site itself. So let's first look at some of those analysis modules. This section, like the others, shows a list of modules. Each module represents a test that you can do from the KInspector against the site that you're connected to. They're categorized here. You can see like online marketing or consistency issues. To run a test, just click on Load the Module. Kentico will run the test and bring back some results, which you can see if we toggle the arrow. So here you'll see I'm looking at the application restarts in the event log. Kentico has run the test and brought back event log items to do with the application restart. I can just click on these, get back results. You'll see green is a pass. As you can imagine, this is doing well. Orange, I think, is a warning. So here you can see some scheduled tasks that have not been disabled, but they're not actually configured to be used. So Kentico is suggesting that we turn these off. When you're finished running through the tests, just press disconnect. You're brought back to the initial screen where you can then reconfigure it to connect to another instance. And when you're ready to close down the tool, as you can see here, all you have to do is press Q. The obvious benefit to KInspector being hosted on GitHub is that you can not only access the code, but also contribute to the tool. What might you add? Well, you could improve upon an existing module. You could create your own module. If you're feeling adventurous, then you might create your own section. You'll remember there are 3: setup, analysis, and security. Might be useful to have a section that does something like automates all the checks you could carry out prior to deployment. If you are more into the user interface, then you could also contribute here. The project has lots of fun stuff in it, like Angular, jQuery, and using Web API as well to provide data to the front end. Rather than coming up with your own idea, you can always go find one on GitHub. The kind folks at Kentico have added handy labels to issues. You can see the issues under here. And they have labels such as first timers only and up for grabs. These are great places to start. And like all great cookery programs, I'm going to walk you through one I prepared earlier. First though, let's explore the necessary setup for contributing to the project. To contribute to the project, you're going to want to get a copy of the build, add your ideas, test them, and then, when all is well, let the folks who run the project review your enhancements and add it to the KInspector. Be sure to check out the general Kentico contribution guidelines here. In summary, contributing is done through a process of forking, adding your enhancements to a new branch, doing a pull request, and finally merging. If all that sounds like a foreign language, then worry not. Let's go through it one step at a time. We start here with the KInspector tool hosted on GitHub. Now, I want my own copy of this so that I can beat it up without worrying about negatively affecting what Kentico are up to. To get my own copy, I fork the original project. So here I am on the original project, Kentico's KInspector, and to fork it, I just click on the fork button. What I end up with is my own copy of KInspector, which you can see here is under my profile, meandmyrobot, and it lets me know that this is forked from Kentico KInspector, which is a link back to the original. To begin development, I'm going to want to clone from my copy of the KInspector tool. As you can see here from meandmyrobot KInspector, I can clone from the URLs provided here. And what cloning will do is it will give me a local copy on my computer that I can work on to add my enhancements. Let's go check that out. Here I am on my computer. I can clone using the URL that was provided for my repo. I am browsing the repository using SourceTree by Atlassian. And disclaimer, other clients for Git are available, including Visual Studio itself. I develop on both Mac and Windows, so I like SourceTree as it's available for both. When I bring down the project for the first time, I'll only have one branch, which is master. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a branch for your feature development. So here you'll see I created a branch for my SSL in admin feature. I later on had to submit a fix, so I have a few branches. But really, I've created a branch so that I can then develop my own feature. Now, an obvious thing to do is to develop a new module or to enhance an existing one. Before you get started, check out the wiki. There's an article here called Writing a Custom Module, and that'll give you an overview as to how to create a new module within the project. Let's have a quick look at the project in Visual Studio. The solution in Visual Studio is made up of several projects. We can see that there's core, which provides things like module loading and a database service. We have modules as well. This is further divided into things like helpers and data. In the modules folder, you'll see that things are categorized as well, just like in the user interface, where we see modules for online marketing or for security. And then finally, we have the web project at the bottom, and this provides the front end and the web API as well. The module I created was in security, and you can see it here, SSL in administration module. And just as a quick overview, with the class, we implement the iModule interface, and we start by setting up some metadata for our module. So I can do things like give it a name and a comment, which will appear on the user interface. I can say which versions of Kentico that this particular module test will support. And then here we have get results, which will run the test and return a results object so that it can then be displayed on the user interface as well. You'll notice that my test executes a SQL file, and it's here that I do the check to see whether or not this setting for SSL in administration has been turned on or turned off. We can run the project locally by just running the KInspector web project. And here I'll just connect to my instance. My new module is under Analysis and Security. And here you'll see SSL used for administrative interface. And this is the new module that I developed. We click on Load. And we'll see that it's currently set to false. Now, because you don't have to set it, I haven't made this return an error. I'm just returning the orange warning color. And I'm saying that it's false and that you can go here in this area here to configure. And again, that text is lifted from the metadata in my module. So pretty standard stuff when it comes to development. I'm creating a new branch, I'm adding some files or updating existing, I'm testing, and then I'm committing to my local repository. When I'm happy with what I've done, I can then push these changes up to my copy of KInspector on GitHub. And if I'm working with a few other folk, then I can also pull from there too in order to get their changes. Basic Git workflow. When I'm happy with what's been developed and I've tested locally, then I'm going to want to make my code available to the original authors. And this can be done by submitting a pull request. Here I am on my copy of KInspector, and you can see through the GitHub user interface that there is a pull request feature. I can pick a branch, click new pull request, and currently there's not anything to compare, but if there was, then I could initiate a pull request from my branch over to Kentico's KInspector. What this will do is initiate a code review process. The authors over on that project will get informed. They'll be able to access the code that I have submitted in a pull request and then be able to review it. If we look at the Kentico KInspector project, you can see the pull request that I submitted with the SSL in administration, which there was some back and forward on, and then finally it was merged. So with this feature accepted, the code that was developed on our fork then became part of the main project. Now, you might want to add new features and contribute to the project over the course of time. Obviously, as time goes by, other kind contributors might be adding in code, newer code than what you brought down when you forked your own copy. One way to keep up to date is to add Kentico's KInspector master branch as a remote to your project. This lets you pull down changes from upstream and keep your KInspector up to date with the latest. So back here in SourceTree, we can see that if I look at my remotes, I not only have my origin, which is the meandmyrobot KInspector, but I also made a connection to Kentico's KInspector as well. So here I've got a upstream link to their master branch. I made several pull requests from my repository to the Kentico KInspector repository, and between that, I wanted to make sure that the master was the most up to date for whenever I created my new branch for the fix. Having this link was a way in which I could make sure that my master is up to date with Kentico's master. So that's it for this guide on Kentico's KInspector. It really is a great tool for analyzing your build and seeing if it conforms to some Kentico best practices. If you have something you'd like to contribute to the project, then why not get your fork out and get tucked in? Cheers!